A very good Tuesday evening to you, and thanks so much for joining us on this April evening. Although it looks and feels a little more like January or even February out there, snow is still coming down in some areas across northern Michigan after we had a beautiful day yesterday with warmer temperatures and a lot of sunshine. But Joe, hopefully we'll see more of those warmer temperatures and some sunshine tomorrow so we can start to melt some of this snow.
Yeah, the sun will be out, and you know, even if you get the sun out for a little bit, it just really helps.
It really does.
Yeah, so there's still snow. In fact, behind me, Gaylord camera, quite a bit of snow still coming down, but that'll end overnight tonight. And then, as you pointed out, yeah, the sun will be back out. It's not gonna be overly warm tomorrow, though, but we are gonna warm up on Thursday. So we'll take a look at that and look at all the way through Easter weekend a little later.
All right, thank you, Joe. Our top story tonight takes us to Traverse City, where officials have announced they intend to start enforcing the city's no camping ordinance in May. Now, many people experiencing homelessness in the area camp in one of the city's parks that has become known as the Pines. So the city gave everyone who was living in the Pines notice last fall that this was going to be happening, but still a common concern that a lot of people have expressed is, well, where will all of these people living in areas like the Pines, where will they go once this ban is enforced? And the city's quick response team has those answers for every single person still camping at the Pines. Our Allie Baxter has all the details.
The Pines are inherently unsafe, and we know that. And so this is a new chapter in trying to get folks not just moved out of that, but into something better.
For the last 5 years, people experiencing homelessness in Traverse City have gathered here, a city park near the Grand Traverse Commons referred to as the Pines.
It's not sustainable. There's a lot of safety issues.
Police Chief Matt Richmond is one of multiple community partners who have been meeting for years to figure out a solution. Because as Richmond explains, these are physical and environmental conditions no one should be living in. And it's an area his officers respond to daily.
Just yesterday, we had a fire in one of the tents, and then that spread to a 20 by 20 foot area around the tent. Again, that's not our first fire out there.
City ordinances say there's technically no camping allowed in any city park. It's an ordinance that hasn't been enforced in the Pines, while community partners brainstormed a better alternative to help people.
And identify the needs that they need, and really work to solidify a plan for them to address those needs before we even go in and enforce our ordinance.
At a community discussion in October, many said they needed a time frame to work with. Now city police are directed to enforce no camping starting May 6th.
On that day, if they need help gathering some of their belongings with some short-term storage, maybe they need a ride, we'll work with them to get them the help that they need to make this transition as easy and humane as possible.
Here's what enforcement would look like, according to Richmond. Every person currently living in the Pines has been told verbally and in writing that no camping will be enforced and they need to leave the park. If they refuse, they can be given a citation. If the person continues to stay, they could possibly be arrested for failing to comply with those instructions.
Really getting people to a better place is our goal, and just because the date is May 6th doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to help them find long-term sustainable housing options or other needs that they need.
We have weekly meetings that are talking through everyone who's out there, their plans, whether they plan to stay at shelter, whether they plan to move along, and what that looks like and how we can help.
Jen Holm is a police social worker and facilitator for the Quick Response Team, or QRT. The team is working alongside law enforcement to help people find a better home. Holmes says they know what every single person still living in the Pines is planning to do as May 6th approaches.
We've got a list of who can't access shelter, and we're trying to find alternative plans for those folks. And then for the people who can access shelter, it's do we have enough beds? And if they don't want to stay at shelter, is there another plan?
And Allie is joining us live now from the Content Center with more on this story. Hey, Allie.
Hi, Maya.
So like you mentioned in your story, this has been a topic for years of trying to find a safer place for everyone who stays in areas like the Pines to actually stay. So why is this all happening now? Why is the no camping ordinance going to be happening in May?
Yeah, so
For a while, they have wanted to enforce this no camping ordinance, but they did want to go about it the right way. And like Chief Richmond said, in the most humane way as well. They really, even though, it kind of appears that way, what they have not done is decide overnight, hey, we don't want anyone camping here. This has been a years-long discussion with different community partners, with different homelessness advocacy organizations, a collaboration of, hey, what's the best way that we go about this? Because we know that the city does not want the Pines to be a thing anymore. It is a health hazard, it is a safety hazard, not just for the people who live there, but for the first responders who have to go back there, for the community partners who have to go back there. So for a while, it has been a priority of the city that the Pines not exist anymore, and it was their goal that it would not exist by summer 2025. So that's kind of where they started. They just knew that it's going to take some time to do this the right way, and we want people to have a good and long heads up as well. They started telling people in fall 2024 that, hey, this is not going to be an option in a few months, and that we, if you need help, please come to us, but housing needs to be a priority right now.
And of course, this is happening as Traverse City's only overnight emergency shelter, Safe Harbor, is looking to expand its hours to operate year-round. So is that kind of playing a role in the decision to start enforcing this ordinance now, too?
Yeah, that's playing a big role. Of course, that May 6th date comes as May 5th. Safe Harbor is on the City Commission's agenda to get a approval for a special land use permit to be able to operate year-round. So now that people do have an option that is a year-round option to go have somewhere where they can stay overnight, that legally allows the city to say, hey, you can't camp here anymore, because there are options.
Right, and I'm sure that is going to be a big option for many people staying at the Pines is Safe Harbor. But let's just say after the public hearing, when the City Commission goes to vote on this special land use permit to extend the hours at Safe Harbor, let's say for whatever reason they don't approve it. How will that impact this no camping ordinance enforcement?
They would not be able to move forward. That essentially, that approval gives them the green light to start doing that no camping enforcement. If there is kind of a hang up and that special land use amendment isn't approved, then I believe essentially they wouldn't be able to start enforcing anything on May 6th, because they are relying on that approval to be able to move forward.
So they are at this point planning for on that May 5th public hearing for this to be approved, and then they'll be ready to go for that May 6th enforcement date.
Yeah, and the reason kind of they're saying and announcing all this now is because, again, it's just one more heads up to not just the community, but the people who are living in the Pines as well, as again, hey, we are giving you adequate warning and adequate heads up that we are going to be enforcing this, and this area is not going to be used for camping anymore.
Right. And did Chief Richmond or Jennifer Holm mention anything about how the people who are currently living in the Pines, how they're feeling about this transition?
Yeah, so ever since last fall, when they have made that announcement to people who are living out there, both written and verbally, they have said that they've worked with so many different people, like Jen was explaining with the QRT program. They really do know the situation of every single person that is living back there in the Pines and what their living situation is going to entail. So they've already gotten so many different people into housing or relocated to the area that they came from to look for housing there. They've gotten people connected back with their families or checked into different treatment programs. It's been different options for what best fits the needs for each individual person. I believe right now I've heard kind of some conflicting numbers, but there could be, I believe, 20-ish people still living there right now, which is a dramatic difference from summers past. We've seen maybe up to 100 people living in the woods back there. So that is a dramatic difference to only have about 20. And this morning, Chief Richmond said he believes it's about 5 to 8, maybe even 10 people where really they have said, no, we are staying here, we're not going anywhere.
And then you kind of talked about this in your story of what could happen if people do refuse to leave. Do you want to kind of reiterate that?
Yeah, so if people refuse to leave, first of all, they're going to give, again, another adequate warning, another heads up. They said they are taking all the steps here. They will tell people, hey, you can't camp here anymore. They will also do a written thing as well, saying, hey, we've notified you that you can't camp here anymore. If there is still a refusal to go, there'll be written a citation since it is a city ordinance. But after that, if there is still a refusal to comply and follow those instructions, there could be facing a possible arrest. But Chief Richmond said that is honestly the very last thing we want to do. We really, really would rather help that person. We want to be able to find them some kind of housing option or some kind of treatment program, whatever they need. An arrest is not our first priority.
Right, kind of just like a last case scenario.
Very last case scenario, yeah.
Anything else that you want to mention about this transition that we haven't talked about yet?
I think we've kind of already talked about it, but I just want to reiterate again that, a common, in looking through some of like the comments on our Facebook story about this, a lot of people had the same question that we did, which is, hey, if not here in the Pines, where are people going to go? Logically, they have to go somewhere else, right? And that's why I want to reiterate again that the QRT program genuinely knows every single person living back there and what next steps that they are going to embark on. And they know exactly what each person is facing right now. So no one, Jen reiterated it again to me today, she said, no one is alone back there, and we don't want anyone to be alone in this. If someone isn't working with us, it's because they genuinely just don't want to. So they do know everyone's living situation back there, and no one is essentially going to be left behind.
Right, and like you said, this wasn't an overnight decision. This has been something that's been talked about for a very long time, and it sounds like there's been good communication between city officials and those who are living in the Pines. Now, I want to kind of circle back to something that you said that it caught my attention, and I just didn't ask at the moment. So right now, there are maybe around 20 people staying at the Pines. At one point, you said there was as many as 100 people.
Yeah.
Do you know what led to that pretty steep decrease of people?
Yeah, it's just working that. I think the QRT program, working with people and relocating them and getting them those different options that they needed. I know a big one over the last year has been East Bay Flats transition. We also had a couple years ago Roof Park apartments open. So there's been a lot of different housing options available, and something that the QRT program does is they facilitate that housing. So I think that's been what you see is a big difference. And I think probably the warnings as well of, hey, if there is anyone that does come up here, because they know there is like a few people who maybe come up here for the summers and stay in that area of the Pines, they have communicated as well that's just not going to be an option this year.
Right. All right, Allie, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing some more details on your story. We really appreciate it. We are still continuing to cover the aftermath of the historic ice storms across northern Michigan a couple weeks ago now, and many state trails, parks, and campgrounds remain closed in northern Michigan because of all of the devastation left behind from those ice storms. Almost 1 million acres of state forest land damaged, and the DNR is not letting anyone onto those trails. They are asking people to stay off because they are still closed. However, they are releasing a form to those who want to help volunteer clean up some of the trails. And it's not so much about hauling logs out of the woods. It's more about just getting campgrounds and boat launches ready for the summer season. And our Daniel Zivian has more details.
There's a lot of debris. It's not blocking roads, but it's stuff that would need to be picked up and get out of the way so that we can reopen the areas. It's labor intensive, so a lot of hands can make it go faster.
Olson says DNR staff are already working double time after a delayed start while they waited for the ice to melt. Local business owners are closely watching the DNR's progress. Latitude 45, a Petoskey bike shop, depends on the Tip of the Mid's trail network staying open.
The economy is struggling as is right now, given everything that's going on, and demand is a little bit lighter than normal. So we're nervous about the fact that our summer is going to be slow. A 5th grade all-day bike field trip is about to start in May, where almost every day of the week there's a group of kids taking a bike ride up to the Odin Fish Hatchery on an all-day field trip. And right now, we're not sure if those are going to be able to happen.
Daniel Zivian reporting. And if you do want to volunteer to help clean up, you can find the form to do that on our website, UpNorthLive.com. Before the break, let's take a look at our question of the day related to state parks and campgrounds. How often do you use recreational parks and trails in your community? Scan the QR code on your screen right now. You can also go to our website, UpNorthLive, where you can vote on our question, and we will take a look at the live results at the end of our show. Well, let's take a quick break, but Joel will have much more on your forecast, including when this snow is going to wrap up and what the rest of the week looks like, coming up next.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
A lot of folks across northern Michigan woke up to some snow on the ground this morning. Not the best sight in the middle of April. So, Joe, I'm sure a lot of people out there are wondering, are we finally done after this? Will this be the last snowfall of this spring winter season and we can finally move into more warmer weather?
Oh gosh, you're putting a lot of pressure on me.
That's what the people want to know.
I don't know. We might get snow in May. We have before. You know, the thought is hopefully it'll be done, but we'll see.
We'll take it.
At least I don't see a lot of snow after this, at least in the extended forecast, so that's good news. But yeah, we had a pretty snowy one in some spots. It's so snowy, look, the traffic stopped. I'll show you Gaylord here in a minute. That was a still image. Here we go. This was this morning, Maya. You feel a little bad for that flower trying to bloom, looking for a little sun. Yeah, that'll melt though. I'm sure, in a week that'll be blooming very nicely. But that was this morning. Chris Stapleton took this south of Empire with some of the morning snow we had. There's a live looking Gaylord. Snow coming down. I mean, it does kind of look like January out there, right downtown there off the Crave Pizza building. We still have for a couple counties, several counties until 8 o'clock tonight, winter weather advisories for the purple shaded areas, parts of the UP, eastern UP, and then from Cadillac, Houghton, Lake City North up to the Mackinac Bridge, several counties again under a winter weather advisory. Here's our satellite radar imagery, and you can see some of the snow still. Here's a little closer look at that. Right there, especially Antrim and Kalkaska counties right now, right into Grayling. Some snow. We just showed you the live camera there in Grayling. Around Frankfort, Buckley, actually more in the way of little rain near Rogers City, and then across the UP, a few snow showers near Brimley, Bay Mills, and the Sault Ste. Marie area. It's still windy. It's been a chilly wind, too, gusty. Look at Pellston right now, 48 mile per hour wind gusts at this hour. So still very, very windy there. The wind will slowly start coming down tonight, and there's our temperatures, or where they stand right now, in the 30s and mid-40s currently. But high pressure will build in here. That sits over Minnesota tonight, and watch what it does. The snow will end, and tomorrow, maybe a little cloud cover south, but look at that. Sunshine, gorgeous. Weather, still a little chilly. And then Thursday, more sunshine, nice day. If you're wondering about the next chance for rain, and it will be rain, not snow, it'll be Thursday night right there. Showers enter the picture, maybe a rumble of thunder. And then we head into Friday. There's the chance for perhaps a couple thunderstorms Friday, which is worth keeping tabs on too. Here is our extended forecast. A couple nice days coming up. Thursday will be warmer. Even though the sun's out tomorrow, it's not going to be all that warm. And then Friday, rain, maybe a thunderstorm in the lower peninsula. And right now, I've had to put in the chance for a little rain, I think, later in the day on Easter. We'll keep an eye on that, too. Of course, a lot of folks have plans on Easter. I think the morning pretty dry, but maybe a little rain later in the day.
And really quick, Joe, do you want to talk about your weather special tonight?
Yeah, that's coming up at 8 o'clock tonight. Normally we do a Facebook Live then, but we're doing a half-hour weather special tonight, talking about weather history, severe weather history here in northern Michigan, some changes to National Weather Service watches and warnings. So we'll have that tonight on all of our streaming platforms for Up North Live.
All right, thanks so much, Joe. Let's take a quick break. We'll check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe straight ahead. April in the D is in full swing this week with the Tigers playing Game 2 against the Brewers tonight, and the Pistons have a playoff game on Saturday. For more, let's check in with Sports Director Harrison Beebe. Hey, Harrison.
Maya, yes, it is the best month of the year if you're a Detroit sports fan. A lot of people say April is the best sports month of the year. I think I'm in that camp as well. October has a lot to say with the college sports going on, college football and NFL games. But keep in mind, as I'll show you in a second here, we've got something very NFL related coming up next week that gets a lot of people's attention. You and I, particularly, were in the middle of it last year. But yeah, here's our April in the D rundown. Tigers, did you know this? They have the best record in the American League right now at 10-6. So there's 4 National League teams that have a better record than the Tigers. But right now, they are the best team record-wise in the American League. And that's, I think I also just looked up a stat at 10-6. Ignore the fact that they got swept in that first-round series with the LA Dodgers, first series of the season. So they 0-3. So take away those 3 losses, they're 10-3 since then. So pretty good run for the Tigers to get to this point. But moving right along the list, as you mentioned, the Pistons start the playoffs on Saturday against the Knicks. And the Red Wings, unfortunately, no playoffs for them. 9th straight year missing out on the postseason for the Red Wings. Who would have thought in this day and age they would be the one Detroit team that would not be participating in the postseason? But sad state of affairs for them. They did win last night in their home finale. And we know Steve Yzerman still has a lot of fingerprints on this team, no doubt, wanting to get them in a long-term investment to get them back to the glory years. And as we mentioned with the Lions, might as well give a positive to end things when it's usually Red Wings, Pistons, and Tigers. The Lions have a lot of picks next week over in Green Bay for the 2025 NFL Draft. So something to talk about for every team. Some teams more excited, some teams less. But April in the D living up to the hype as being that very unique sports month, especially if you're from a state that has 4 pro sports teams.
All right, cool to see that the Lions get in on some of that April in the D action. Unfortunately, Harrison, you and I will not be at the draft this year, but I know you'll still have complete coverage here on Up North Live.
I think we can accommodate that, yeah.
All right, thank you, Harrison. We're going to take one more commercial break, but we will check in with the live results for our question of the day in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
How often do you use recreational parks and trails in your community? That is our question of the day today. You can see the live results on your screen right now. I'm going to head over to Facebook to read some of your comments. Brenda says, I work for a daycare, and as often as we can, we like to walk on the Tart Trail. Chuck says once or twice a week. Richard, several times a week. Not daily, but close. Teresa says pretty much every day. Jamie, almost daily. And Mike says every week. If you haven't voted on our question of the day yet, you can head to our website, UpNorthLive.com. You can vote, and you can also leave your comments on our Facebook page. But that'll do it for Unscripted. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everyone.